In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Dear audience, this is Language and Linguistics Online. I am Dr. Khurram Shahzad from National University of Modern Languages, Islamabad. Today, I intend to talk about language planning and policy. We should remember that they refer to deliberate efforts made by governments, institutions, and organizations to influence the structure, use, and development of languages in a particular society. So, it is always a political decision made by the government or some of the institutions which are authorized to make this decision that out of so many languages, one language will be chosen as the language of the country or the official language or the national language of the country. Usually, most of the countries, they are bilingual or multilingual. Keeping into consideration the different kinds of social factors like the status of the people, status of the language, the kind of economic resources that the country has. Usually governments, they make decisions that how language planning will be carried out. And of course, in the policy, you make different kinds of rules and regulations. You document the language in order to implement that language in colleges, universities, and for official work. The purpose of language policy and planning is to address issues related to language use in areas such as education, administration, and for social integration. Language policy and planning typically operates at a national level. We should remember that language is a key part of cultural heritage and national identity. So, whatever language you are speaking, it displays your identity. It's a kind of social integration. In multilingual societies, language policies can help foster social cohesion and integration, equality and accessibility. It ensures that all citizens can access government services, education, and media in their preferred languages. As I have just told you, that language planning refers to the deliberate and systematic efforts to develop, change, or regulate languages. It includes efforts to standardize, promote, and revive a language. Language policy, it talks about different sets of principles, laws, regulations, and practices that govern how languages are used within a strata or within an organization. It includes both explicit, clear cut, and implicit rules governing language use in different domains such as education, government, and media. There is another concept which is called language purism. It means that you are going to protect your language, preserve your language from the outside influences, particularly through the elimination of foreign words. So usually it is not considered good that we should have words from foreign language into our language. Remember, there are three types of planning. Number one is called status planning. And usually in language standardization also, I have talked about that it is the decision, political decision made by the government that which language will become the standard language of the society. So in this way, we determine the status of the language, and it is a political decision. For example, in Pakistan, when Pakistan came into being, of course, it was the decision of the founder of Pakistan that Urdu will be the national language of Pakistan and English will be the official language of Pakistan. So in this way, he determined the status of the language. It involves the social standing of a language. Governments may elevate the status of a language to become the official language, or they may encourage the use of a language in specific domains like education for official purposes, government, and businesses. So Pakistan is a multilingual society where people, they speak Punjabi, Seraiki, Balochi, Sindhi, Pashto, and of course, the decision was made by the government or the founder of Pakistan that our national language will be Urdu language and English will be the official language. Secondly, we have got corpus planning. In corpus planning, the government makes, constitutes institutions and organizations. And of course, they develop different kinds of committees. Their job is to codify the language. Their job is to establish the dictionaries and grammar books of the language so that whenever people they want to get some reference, they want to give reference to something, they should open that encyclopedia or book or dictionary up and look that word into it. So all these things are done to standardize a language or adapt it for new uses, particularly in education, technology, and administration. So this is the corpus planning. So all languages of the world which are standardized, they have got dictionaries. And these days we have got online dictionaries. They are available on the internet. So Urdu dictionaries, they are also available on the internet. Urdu or English grammar books are also available on the internet and in book forms. So students, they can consult them, teachers, they can consult them, and they can educate other people. The third kind of planning is acquisition planning, where we will have to make decisions that how the language will be taught to the students, how students and learners, they are going to acquire the language, learn the language. So here, vocabulary will be determined. Different kinds of exercises will be carried out. Pronunciation will be determined. So we will decide, government will decide that this is the part of the standard language and this is the part of the local dialect. So in English, we have talked about various examples. Women, they make use of question tags. They make use of hedges. On the other hand, men, they are quite assertive in their language. They do not make use of question tags. So people, they report such type of things in their researches and they determine that how the words they are pronounced. For example, coffee. So some people within America, they say coffee and coffee. But one pronunciation is the standard pronunciation or RP pronunciation, and rest of the pronunciations, they are the dialect pronunciations. Language revival. So when the governments, they feel that some languages, they are about to die, so they can revive, they can make rules, and they can try to implement those rules within the society. And in this way, they can revive the language. For example, in Israel, we can see that they have revived the language now. Thirdly, I should talk about language policy approaches. Monolingual policy. It means that the government has made rules that only one language will be used within the country or within the institutions of the country like education, business, and administration. So here we have got the example of France. France has a long standing tradition of supporting French as the sole national language, with strong legal frameworks protecting the use of French in public life and education. It does not mean that they do not speak, or the people living in France, they do not speak the other languages. But the government has planned a monolingual policy in which only one language is, considered the standard language, and it is used all over the country. Multilingual policy. So here we have got the example of Switzerland. Switzerland has got four official languages: German, French, Italian, and Romance. And the government promotes multilingualism in education and administration. No doubt, when the government is supporting four languages, it means that they are quite viable economically. They have got lot of money. So if the country is quite strong in economics, they can make such type of policies. On the other hand, Pakistan right now is suffering crunch, problems economically. So we cannot make such type of policy where our government can decide that we can have four or five national languages. So right now it is not possible. So in Pakistan, we have got Urdu as the national language and English as the official language. Pluralist policy. A policy where different languages are treated equally without necessarily being institutionalized. This is often the case in more diverse societies. South Africa. South Africa recognizes 11 official languages in its constitution, with policies promoting linguistic diversity and equality. Bilingual policy, a policy that promotes the use of two languages and cultures, often as a way to preserve indigenous languages or minority languages. Now we should talk about some of the factors that influence language planning and policy. So we have got political factors. We will have to see what kind of government we have got in the country, what are their preferences, okay, and what kind of language they want to promote. So usually political decisions are made that this will be the national language, this will be the official language, or at local regions, in different regions, whether they are promoting some language or not. Political ideologies, national unity, and historical conflicts influence language policies. For example, Spain's language policy in Catalonia often involves complex negotiations between national and regional interests. Then we have got social and cultural factors. We will have to see that what kind of culture the country is having, what are their likes or dislikes, what is their belief system, and accordingly, the government makes the decisions. Keeping in mind the whims and desires of the people, the government makes the decisions. So, language policy is also driven by cultural preservation and social integration needs. They push to protect and revitalize minority or indigenous languages, for example, often which are tied to preserving cultural heritage and identity. And economic considerations. The economic benefits of a particular language, especially in global context, can influence national language policies. English as a global business language has been often adopted widely across many countries. Technological changes. So, of course, this is an era of technology. We are living in globalization, age of globalization. So, we will have to see whether our local languages or national languages they have this strength. Can they produce the vocabulary for the changes which are occurring globally? Can we have words for all these phenomena that we are coming across in our life? So, English right now is widely used and it is a language of science and technology. So, usually, words all over the world are moving from one language to the other language. And people quite often they make use of code mixing and code switching in their language. So developments of digital media, social networks, and other technologies often impacts language use and requires the adaptation of languages. For example, the digitalization of Arabic script has led to new corpus planning activities for Arabic on the internet. And if you read the book by Ronald Ward Ho, you will come across that he has given the example of India, he has given the example of Singapore, he has given the example of South Africa. So these we can take as case studies that you can cover out of so many, some of them in the paper. In my today's video, I have talked about language planning and policy. I have differentiated between planning and policy. I have talked about different factors like cultural factors, social factors, economic factors, technological factors. They influence the decisions, which are usually political decisions, and they influence language planning and policy. I have also talked about corpus planning, status planning, and acquisition planning. Thank you very much.